Hey everybody, welcome to Woodworking Wisdom. My name's Colwin, and today we're looking at a bar table. Now, I'm doing this in a slightly sort of a backwards way, really. This one's obviously live, so bear that in mind, everybody. And on Thursday, so 2 days' time from where we are now, we are putting out recorded the second part of this. However, the second part of this that we've already done, I've actually got those bits next to me right here. So yeah, just use your imagination on this bit, okay? So this is going to be a bar table, and when I say a bar table, we're looking outside bar at the moment, okay? In a couple of weeks, I'm going to make you a tiki mask to decorate the outside bar. I'll explain more about that on that live. But this is the second one I've made, and the reason that is because I wanted to do, or nowadays we do a blog to support our videos, and so that means we have to make a couple of each thing. And that's a little bit of working out as well. So we're going to show you some pictures. I've got Ben behind the camera trickery and all that sort of thing. So he's asking questions today. He's going to be flipping over the cameras and asking also all those questions. So before we go to the pictures, are we going to do a question?
We've got a quick question.
Go on then.
So a question from Ward. He's asking, have you got your land legs back?
I've got my land legs back, yeah. Well, you'll see them later on. They're in me shorts as well, so I do apologise. Land legs are back. I just had a lovely 2-week Norwegian cruise through the fields, teaching on the sun deck. So it's one of the hardships as a wood turner that I have to endure every 3 or 4 years. But yeah, it was wonderful people on board, wonderful scenery all around, and I put through. Oh, how many people did we do? We around about 120 people through a mixture of beginner and intermediate wood turning classes at 1.5 hours each, with a wonderful workshop on the sun deck as well. So that was a good couple of weeks. I was able to take my son. We done the whole thing, the seafood and the wonderful site. So thanks for asking the question, Ward. That was really cool. Right, let's go to the stills that we've got. So I've got one here. Now this is where I got the idea of it. So there's the table in the background. Great sign. Save the lakes, drink ale. That's because I was in the Lake District when we took this. This was in a pub called the Dog and Gun, and I don't normally go in that many pubs, but I sat down and I had a look across the room, and while I was having the ale, and this table sort of sprung to life. I thought, oh my goodness, what a great idea! Because the issue I've always thought about when doing this sort of table is doing the base. And I don't want a big lump of turn timber on the bottom. And this was quite a nice little way around it. I'm not a woodworker in general. My strength is turning, I feel, because that's my passion. So for me to be able to do something like this, which is relatively simple woodwork, as you'll see on Thursday when the recorder comes out, I thought, what a lovely way to do it. Now that one there has a painted center spindle and just wooden top and painted base. I've gone a slightly different. This one today is all going to be just timber, but with the idea potentially of painting this spindle. We'll talk about this in a minute. It's quite an old, gnarly bit of timber that's not that pretty. But Ben, can you go to the other picture? I just want to show you guys another one. This is the one that I've done for the blog, and this is in lovely Devon countryside. This is my back garden, and this is one I made earlier for the blog. Now that has again, it's another old fence post, but that's a lovely piece of oak. The timber for the top and the bottom was made out of old pallets, so it's completely recycled table. This one, old gate post, old fence post, and some pallets for the rest of it. So that's actually shed paint that I've done the top and the base with, and a bit of finishing oil for the center spindle. Now, left alone, that wouldn't be waterproof in itself, so I would take that in undercover if I knew it was going to rain, those sorts of things. But of course you could make it completely waterproof, watertight if you wanted to. Just take note as well, I haven't used galvanized or stainless screws. I've just used regular screws because I just wanted to make the piece to show you. So create your own piece here, make it suit the situation you want to put it. And that includes the sides of the one. This is designed to be a table. So when you're stood up drinking your orange juice, it's something to put on the table beside you. Okay, so there's quite a tall piece of center spindle. I did mention that these were old fence posts, and they are. You can probably see. I don't know whether Ben, can you go to the above you, just to see how gnarly this is. Has staple marks where the fence was going through on both sides. Look, I did get myself into a little bit of trouble because I thought I got rid of them all, and then went to put the oak post through before, and put a nice big gouge up through the thicknesser. So I wasn't very popular when it comes to that one. But I think I've removed most of the nails and screws, or if not, sunken them back in anyway. We'll soon find out when we start turning. We are going to have pummels on either side because I want to fix this to the round base and the bottom. Ben, just pan the camera 4 just to see what we've got coming. There we are. There's the base and the top. So all ready to go. I just need to turn this center section. So it's all about spindle turning. We know what's coming. Colwin way signature skew and the very big one. But this gate post, this was a different. So I keep saying gate post. It's fence post. This was a different fence from the oak one before. This is going up the dividing mine and my neighbour's front driveway. This is a softwood as opposed to the old one that I've done, which was an oak one. So this is not good timber. You can see the splits running through it. That's fine. Splits and knots and gnarly bits. I've sanded the top, what will be the pummel section, so you can see the old surfaces here, including the green algae. But that's not a thing. We don't know worry about that. We're going to cut into it. We're going to do the turning. We're going to do the shaping. Then we're going to go over to the bench over there, and then I'm going to show you how we connect it all up. And then you just have to keep all that locked into your mind, jumble it up a little bit, and then join me again on Thursday where we make the top and the bottom. Anyway, let's start. So I'm going to put a big visor on. The reason that I put a visor on, you might argue, well, why don't you put a visor on all the time if you're going to put it on for this one? Well, yes, I should, but it's quite awkward for me to get the message across, quite awkward for our sound to come across as well. But we're going to do that today regardless, because just in case I've forgotten or not seen a nail or a staple in there, I hit it. It's quite a large piece as well. I just want to be extra sure. I'm going to have dust extraction running most of the time. This is about a 15-year-old fence post. It's going to be dry. It's going to be dusty. There's a little bit of dry rot in there. There's all sorts of things going on. Structurally, it's okay, but it's going to throw a lot of dust in the air. And I don't want to be breathing that in particularly. So I will have the dust extractor running and my full face visor on. It won't be a long project for me to turn this. I'm not going to sand it because of the issues I've just been talking about. So we are just going to do the turning and then join this together, and then link into Thursday's live recorded session. So let's take a measurement. Let's go fairly big on these square sections. I think I'm going to go so 10 inches, so around about 250 millimeters, depending on where you are in the world. And well, it's 250 mil, whatever, but it's 10 inches or 250 mil ish, because they're not exactly the same. There we are, some nice bold lines. I've done that with pencil for an obvious reason, in that when we finish this, we can sand that pencil mark away. If you use pen, it goes in a little bit further, so it's a little bit more sanding to be done, or you just turn it out of the way. We're going to make a round pummel. And so that's my starting point. I have mentioned this before in when we've been talking about turning table legs and things like that. We have to start with a pummel. If we don't start with a pummel, you probably end up splitting away the corners. So it's really quite important. So there, we're gonna go straight in with a skew chisel. That's the one we're using, the nice splay chisel. And this is the largest one, the 32. And I'm going to have the lathe controller right the way over so I can get to it nice and quickly. Lathe speed is at 0 at the moment. I'll put my visor on. So I'm just going to go crackly for 5 seconds while I put this on. And I might sound a little bit like Darth Vader just for 5 seconds. Ben, you'll tell me if I'm hitting the screen with the mic, please. Lathe speed, or lathe is on. Lathe speed gets turned up. One thing we don't talk about, usually as demonstrators, we get asked, right, what speed are you running at? What timber is it? Blah, 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 all those sorts of things. Well, that's the speed that I'm going to turn this at is going to be very much dependent on the timber, on its balance, on the lathe I'm using. And the one thing that no one is ever really talks about is the ability of the turner. That's a huge thing, and it should be one of the first things to consider.
understanding what happens when things go too quick or too slow is a really important part of turning. So if you're unsure, stay slow. Using the tip of the skew just to create my pummel. I'm working back and up to the line. I'm into solid timber now. We'll stop and just have a look. I'm going to move the tool rest over. So I'm down to solid timber. Okay, I might just take that in a little bit further actually. So let's just relieve a little bit of the waste. There we go. Just a little bit of that waste removed. And the only way I could do that is by taking a little bit of this waste out to cut further down into the pummel. Nice and deep there now, look. So we'll do the same thing on this side. So where's my light? There it is. Don't forget, I will have the dust extractor running in a moment. I'm just leaving it off for the minute whilst I do those pummel cuts though. Now doing these pummel cuts, I've got my handle in line with the cut, but a slight tilt to the tool. There we are into solid timber. There we are. Let's stop and just check to make sure I'm at the right point. And this is just a rough guesstimate on these because it doesn't matter if we're a few mil out, makes no odds, doesn't matter at all. Ben, I think we've got a question. Ooh, nice noise. What was the question, mate?
So a question from Maria. She's asking what the overall length is of that.
I think I've done it to a meter, Maria. But I'll find out as soon as Ben gets me a tape measure. I'll tell you. I think it's a meter. Near enough a meter, yeah. It's about it was about 97 centimeters. So yeah, we're about a meter. Okay, here he comes. Sorry, mate. I think it was near enough a meter. So yeah, we're at 97 centimeters. So I think I started off with a meter in mind, but it looked as though it was a bit of dead rock. Which end was it? It was in this end here, and it was quite soft. So I had to trim a little bit off. The other one was a meter, the oak post one, so that works. Lathe speed to 0, turn the lathe on. It's just a thing, that lathe speed to 0, turn the lathe on. It's just like a safety blanket for me, really. It's something that I've always sort of done. Don't have to, just be aware. If you know, here we share workshops, so sometimes you don't really know what anybody else has been doing in here. I'm going to stop the lathe now and just show you something. So for a relatively soft bit of timber, that's given me a lot of feedback and a lot of issue. Look at the state of that, you know. I'm not worried about that, of course, because we've got lots of finishing tools that we can attack this within a minute. But yeah, it's really quite troublesome bit of timber, but not for long. We'll make it round whatever happens. So to give you an idea of speed, there I'm running at 1,000 revs. There we are. So that's that one side. Now, a couple of things you may not have noticed me doing there. As I got to this side, I tipped the roughing gouge over. So instead of having the flute pointed dead upright, it was over. That meant I could creep right into this detail. I have spoken about that before, I know, but it's worth sort of going over again each time. Turn it over so I can get right into that corner. And the other thing that I haven't spoken about yet is the drive center I'm using. I'm actually using a bigger center here. I'm using what we call a jumbo drive, which is a lathe center about 1.25 inches in diameter, 4-prong drive, but it's something a little bit bigger. The tailstock, I'm using the Evolution tailstock center, but I've taken off the point to expose the ring center underneath. It's a bigger, more substantial center for two reasons: a bigger piece of timber, but a softer piece of timber as well. And we're taking fairly hefty cuts here. So I've done a bigger center on both sides for that very reason. Now, we've got a lovely big knot there, so loads of character and feature, but also a little bit troublesome. Checking all corners, and then I can start the machine. Yeah, stop and just have a check on that. Yeah, look at that, lovely. My embellishment and my texturing techniques are doing quite well there, Ben. I'm just going to I'll do the question in 2 seconds. Let me just take one more skim off. One more skim off there. And we'll move the tool rest up. I'm going to do the same on this side, and then we can think about the skew. That'll do us. We'll clean that up with a skew in 2 seconds. Yes, Ben, what questions do we have?
So we've got a right lovely bunch in today. They're being super friendly with each other in the chat.
Oh,
We've got
what they want.
a couple of things here. So the gentleman Wood Turner's asking, he says, hi everyone, is Colwin glad to be back on dry land? We got Andy Smith. Here's a good question. So it says, good afternoon all. I know the rules about spindle roughing, about the spindle roughing gouge, i.e. spindle work only. Do the same rules apply to all spindle gouges, even though they're ground to similar profiles as a bowl gouge?
No. Spindle roughing gouge, because it has think about it. The spindle roughing gouge has a flat face. So literally the front face of it there is dead flat. Okay. A spindle gouge doesn't. It has a curved front face. Now, yes, you can use spindle gouges on bowls and platters and things like that. No problem. Just understand it's a slightly different bevel angle. And in fact, it's used really well to take little the bases away from bowls, to do finishing cuts, all those sorts of things. The only thing you have to bear in mind with the spindle gouge is not as strong as a bowl gouge. There's not as much material in a spindle gouge because it has a very shallow and wide flute, and because of that, all the material above that flute has to be taken away. Unlike a bowl gouge, which is narrow and deep, so you do leave a lot of material up the sides of the flute. So that makes it a lot stronger. So those are the only things to consider. A spindle gouge, yes, that'll be used on a bowl. Roughing gouge, absolutely, definitely not.
And Cliff's asking about the drive. Could we show him the drive? Is that the jumbo 4-prong?
It is, yes.
I've got one here.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. Look at that. The mystery hand is coming in off camera. I'll put that up there. All right, so it literally is a regular 4-prong drive, but just with a little bit more size, and so a little bit more drive, a little bit more support given. All right. Am I? What did gentleman Turner say? Am I happy to be?
I think it's glad to be back on dry land.
Well, I don't. The cruise is a special thing. It's been over the past 25 years. It's been built up, and I'm lucky enough to have been on 4 of them now. It's a very special place to be for 2 weeks with some very, really, really quite special people. My job on the sun deck is a really lovely one because the workshop changes every day. The scenery changes every single day. And I do joke to a lot of the students that are on the sun deck turning, and that there's an added skill level when you're turning on a ship, because it's fields, it's not rocking up and down and all over the place, but there's a little bit of movement there. So you have to think about your balance as well as your turning. It's not dangerous. No more dangerous than a workshop environment because it's not really rocking up and down. The decks are dry. It's all the safety things are done every single day, but it's just an extra added little bit of interest, I would say.
And then one here from the Artful Bodger. Could a faceplate be used with large, long screws?
Yeah, and in fact, if you're turning things like big pillars, porch pillars and stuff like that, it's probably advisable to go for a faceplate instead. Just bear in mind that tailstock does need to be needed, and when you're screwing into end grain, it's not as strong as screwing into side grain. So big bolts are going to be required for that. But yeah, absolutely, that's going to be the best way of holding of all of them. Right, we'll get some shaping done now. We'll do a little bit of cleaning up with the skew. So bevel rubbing, lift the handle. And we just want to clean that surface. I'll do one pass and stop the lathe to show you where we are. As I get to the detail, drop down to the bottom heel corner and into the edge. I'll come back the other way, but I'll do that in a minute. There we are. Look at the difference. Hopefully you can see that even from that distant shot, but it's a completely different finish and a smooth one. That's the most important thing. I'm going to do one more there just to take out the last little flat. Bevel rubbing first, lift the handle. Once you've got your cut flowing, then just move to the side. There we go. Good. Easy. Now, before I move over to the other side, I think I'll do some detail here. So let's go for what shape are we going to do? I don't know. Let's start with a little V cut. Like that. We'll keep the fillet. So fillet is a flat, and then we'll go into another little V before going into a bead. I'm using the long point of the tool. And that all that's doing is just giving me the ability to get down and into detail, really. We're now going to go to the heel and roll over as a bead. So this is a shallow side of the bead. And we're just going to create a little OG. Right down to the bottom of that V. We'll do a nice sharp bead here, or half bead. So this has been in the ground for approximately 15 years, I think. It's a piece of softwood. I put it in so I can remember putting it in. It's lasted fairly well above ground, but it had rotted off underground. So we're on a little spindle gouge now. rotating this spindle gouge over and then back out again as we come to the bottom of the cove. There we are. That will do that side. Let's just stop and have a check and see where we are. There we are. It's a nice little OG. Now I can probably reach everything else from where we are there. I'll come down the bottom here. We'll just do another V. What should we do on this side? Let's do something similar. So we'll roll over into a little bead. Or shall I go into another fillet? Let's clean up. There we are. Let's do another fillet. We'll keep it even. Round over. There we are, and we'll do another one of those. They're quite nice little shapes. Let's do another OG. I'm right in the middle of that you didn't see that. I'm right in the middle of that knot. That'll start everybody chatting now, won't it? I bet you. Yeah, right. We'll roll that cove over. One more then. Whee! I'm battling with a big knot that's there. I'm not making excuses. Battling with a big knot. Got ya. I won. Right then. So let's go. Spindle gouge again. Sorry, Ben, I'll look up in a minute. I'm just battling this little bit of a gnarly area here. But of course, around every gnarly area, every awkward bit, there's always lovely colours and grain movement. So we like them really. It's like cyclists. You learn to love hills because at the top of every hill you've got a descent. I quite like this. This is working quite well. I'm not quite sure what to do with the middle. We could, if we wanted to, we could leave that dead flat, dead parallel. We could do a little convex curve. I think we'll do something a little bit more than that though. Ben, yes, questions.
So we got a really good question here from the gentleman wood turner, and it was actually something I was thinking before the question came up, and he's saying, for something like this, do you find it easier to work from a plan or just wing it from your imagination?
Just wing it? Depends really. It depends on, well, two things. Depends on what is purpose. So if I'm just going to make one of these and it's just as a thing, then I'll just literally, like you say, wing it. I'll just come up with the idea as I'm going, unless I get inspired by something and particularly like a shape because it's a shape. However, most of the time, if you're asked to make something, the person that asks you to make it will have a plan. They'll come to you with a design in mind. So yeah, there's very different reasons, really. This is, like you say, Mark, this is literally just winging it because it is what it is, sort of thing. But I find it easier just winging it because it's one thing I don't have to do. I don't have to make a measurement. I don't have to get all the plans out. I can just do something. Now that's fine until you have to make two matching. But on something like this, it's a different matching than a set of staircase spindles would be. Okay, very, very different, because you can say, oh, that's roughly 1.25 inches, and you can put 1.25 inches down and it'll be fine. When you're looking up a flight of staircase spindles, though, and they're all over the place, that's not the same. So yeah, very different indeed. He says, as he's just padding time out to think of what shape to do next. So a nice short curve there. This is going to be slightly longer. So a nice long curve. Okay, so now I'm going to drop the tool rest. Now to do that, because I've got pummels on the side, I'm going to turn the lathe off, drop the tool rest down. Let's go in there with a bigger tool. I'm going to take a little bit more out of here. So I'm going to go in with a bowl gouge. Just going a little bit deeper. So I'm just hogging out a bit of material here. I'm not trying to be delicate. I just want to get that material gone. There we are. Now just roughed out. Let's go back in with the skew. So tool rest high again. Hope you're noting this, that the tool rest is being raised when we're using the skew, but lowered when we're using the gouges. Yes, Ben.
Okay, so a couple of questions here, Colwin. The first one is from Jay. He's saying, when making a slicing cut with a spindle or bowl gouge, not scraping, what's the angle? Not of the edge of the gouge, but created from your waist to the rest. So the angle you're holding the chisel, I'm guessing. With a spindle or bowl gouge.
Yeah, spindle gouge. So they work slightly differently, Jay. So if I'm starting here with a spindle gouge, so that's that curve that way, I'm going to have my flute facing toward me to the left because I'm cutting down. And as I get down further to the bottom of that curve, that's the flute then starts facing upwards. Bowl gouge is very different. The bowl gouge flute doesn't really move. I'm not for me here. The flute would stay around about 10 o'clock, so facing 10 o'clock, and that will just be pushed. The bevel will then be pushed around that surface, and vice versa. If you're coming back from the other way, facing 2 o'clock, and the same thing would happen. So that's not a twisting action from there. Well, with the spindle gouge, it is.
And then we've got a question here from Paul. He's looking at lathes at the moment. He's never really done any turning, and he's undecided between the AP350 and the AP406. Any advice?
I'm always going to go 406 because I'm a 406 fanboy, really. I've had one for, oh my goodness, I don't know, probably 10 years now, and love them to bits. They're really, really, they do everything I want them to do, they do. I mean, including this sort of thing. I'll put the extension on here. That extension could go down here so you can turn tabletops if you want to. It is a workhorse, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm using my lathe most weeks. I'll use it a minimum of 6 days a week. Some days, non-stop. It's a proper workhorse, this one. I'm always going to go for that one. It just, for me, it ticks all the boxes, and it just doesn't die.
Yeah,
it just keeps going.
Yeah. And one from Maria here as well. With a bit of wood like that has faults and rot and cracks, at what point would you say that that's too thin to stop taking wood away?
Well, there's the faults. Most of the faults, Maria, are surface. So the cracks, if you see the cracks coming through, and for me, that's adding to it. That's making that piece look a little bit different. But the certainly the screw holes, or they're actually staple holes. They're close to the surface, so they're not really compromising on its strength at all. You're dead right. If you're doing thinner pieces, then you need to look at where those faults might lie, and you might need to position your design around them as well, so to avoid the main faults. But here we've got a nice bit of strength. It's a nice thick and chunky piece, and purposely wanted that for this one because it was such a fairly soft timber. So it's not going to carry a lot of weight or anything like that. I know that table, but you still want it strong. You want it to withstand all the moving around that it's probably going to get.
And then Nigel's asking about the Robust, the American Beauty that was touring around. That's done the tour, hasn't it? It's been around all the shops.
Yep, I think that's going. It's going to be living in Newcastle for a while, in the Newcastle store. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's gone from my workshop.
Okay, so it's up in Newcastle, apparently, Nigel.
Yeah. Right, just a little bit of cleaning up. There we are, and then that pretty much is that spindle.
The obvious things left to do there would be to sand. I'm not going to sand. You know how to sand. All I would say when it comes to sanding, you've got pummels coming around. Just you've got to be careful. You've got to keep your fingers out of the way of those. Tool rest needs to come out of the way. And the other thing is, don't take away your detail. You've worked really hard to get the detail and the shapes the way you want them to. And it's ever so easy on a big piece like this to sand so aggressively that you start taking all these edges off. So manipulate the paper, fold the paper, get it into the shapes that you've now created. Don't be afraid to start coarse. If you want to start with 36 grit abrasive, you start with 36 grit, because that will mean that you'll get through the nasty bits quicker, and then you can move on to your finishing grades. I generally start on this piece around about an 80 grit to 100 grit, depending on what the timber is. Work those first few grits well. Make sure you get rid of all of the nasties. And what I mean by nasties is turning marks and tears, if there are any. Once you've done that, then you can go on your journey up through the grades and make that work. Right. I think we are going to answer some more questions. I'm going to move to the bench though. And we're going to start joining this up together under the understanding that I will take it apart and have it sanded at one point. Yes, fire questions at me, Ben. I'm going to move around the other side of the lathe. I'll answer as I go.
Yeah. So Ward's asking, did you use a metal detector to verify you got all the metal out?
No, I used my eyes. That was the only thing, but that's a good idea. Yeah, don't leave it to chance like I have. Use your eyes. All right, I've barricaded myself in. I'm just getting out.
So going back, Jay asked a question earlier about the angle of the bowl gouge, and he's saying he tends to hold the handle down with the blade of the gouge slicing to make a finishing cut.
Okay,
I guess that's a bit like a shear cut.
Yeah, exactly that.
Interesting.
Nice low presentation with the handle.
Yeah.
And your flute won't be as far over. No, sorry, it'll be a little bit further over than if it was a regular bowl gouge cut. But you do get that lovely shearing action with that. Absolutely fine. I don't tend to use that for hogging material out though, for taking big cuts and taking a lot out. I use that more of a finishing cut. But yeah, take loads of those and you'll get a good finish, definitely.
Yeah, so Jay's saying he uses that as a finishing cut, but doesn't really see you use it much on the videos.
No, I don't use it much on spindle work. I'll use that more on awkward grain on bowls. The two reasons: the skew chisel is my go-to on spindle work, and most of the time with a regular push cut on a sharp chisel on a bowl, for instance, you'll get a good finish. But there's those times where you get a bit of cross grain. You know, those points opposing each other on the bowl. Sometimes that will need an extra special cut, and rather than going to something like a shear scrape, I go to a shear cut with the bowl gouge, and find that works really well. No, you're dead right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to turn my back to you for a few times here. I've got grab all the screws. This is what we made, what I will be making for you on Thursday. I've got a base here. You'll see how that's constructed. It's made up of several bits, but we've got essentially one bit coming all the way through, and then two shorter pieces here, all strapped together with glue and screwed the back, a bridge support, which is thinner than the feet themselves. I think this was 20 mil, this is 25. Okay, so it doesn't rock on that. All, like I say, glued and screwed and fixed together, nice and firm. I pre-drilled everything, so we've got holes for screwing in a minute. I've also got my braces for the base. Okay, and they're literally going to go either side like this, just to support that center column as you're screwing everything together. And then a similar thing for the top. We could just go straight onto the top and screw down. That's going to look horrible. So I've got a few supporting brackets here that we're going to screw everything together with. So it's a fairly easy fix. I would glue as well, but I'm purposely just going to dry fit this one to show you where we are. Now, if I work this cleverly, I'll be able to access these screws underneath. I haven't tried this before, so good luck, everybody. I'm going to come through first of all with a couple of these screws. Keep firing questions, Ben, as I fumble my way around. Are you getting all my huffs and puffs? Right, just back them off a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to position this. What do we think in terms of upright, Ben? Which do you which looks like the right way up? That way or that way? That's upside down, isn't it? It's got to go that way. There we are. You can measure and you can be as accurate as you want to. I'm not. Let's just get one screw just to hold ourselves in there. There we are. Now we can start positioning our supports. So we're going that way. So I've got some really nice grain here. I'm just going to try and match it as much as possible. Let's screw straight into this side first. Like I say, I haven't used stainless steel screws here, so you probably will do unless you're going to completely cover this. Let it pinch through, let's give a little bit more torque. This is one of the better sections of the whole build. When you've built everything and starting to put it together, you see the thing come to life. Once we've done this, we'll just turn it upside down, fix from the bottom as well. There we go. Right, so if I turn him upside down, wait. Let's put that there a minute. Hold that there. Now we'll come through. Don't need to be quite as big with the screws. Want to check that one, make sure he's lined up. Right, that's nice and firm. All the joins have closed up. I think we need to start looking at the top. So the top, I haven't finished the top yet. What we've got here, let's shift that to one side. So the top is made up of 3 parts. So just 3 boards, all cut. It's around about 55 mil, so sort of a fairly substantial size, but a little bit smaller than the actual overall width of the boards for the base, just for stability, really. The other one that I done, the pallet wood one, I didn't sand it at all. This is surface planed nicely. If I wanted to sand it, I could make a really nice job of that and then maybe varnish it to show the timber. But this at the moment is still a rough saw cut. Either I used a bandsaw, but you could use a hand jigsaw as well if you wanted to, if you don't have a bandsaw. And then on the bottom, we just braced it. So I haven't glued the boards together this way, but I have glued these braces down and again screwed them. I've done 3 sections, but left this piece without screwing. It will come out in a minute if I hit it, because that's the piece that I need. That's my capping piece. Once I put it on the top, I can then push that right the way up close to the top and finish. So we're just going to turn this upside down and add this. And then I'm going to grab a little mallet. 2 seconds. Just a little hammer. There it is. That'll help me just position that piece. There, so way over. It starts to get a little bit lumpy now. Helps to have a decent bench. So we're coming over. That should slot in nicely. All the way up. And then that little capping piece that I said to you about can now be pushed all the way up. And nicely in position. It's all down. I'll screw the capping piece on. Any questions at the moment, Ben, or is everybody so captivated by what I'm doing?
No, they're really good. They're all helping each other. There's lots of advice on the lathes, which we were talking about earlier.
Oh, good.
Some suggestion. Oh no, that's something else. Maria's saying maybe Axminster could sell us some of that tulip wood they keep making everything from.
You know, remember, Maria, I'm sure, like us, you found that softwood used to be the way to go. So benchtop joinery softwood, the old redwood. Nowadays, we found that tulip is the go-to timber just because it costs more than anything, and it's reliable, it's straight grown, and all those sorts of things. That's why we use it quite a lot. It's great for the not Windsor chair courses, sorry, routing courses that we used to do. It just holds a good edge and all that sort of thing as well. Wonderful colors. You don't get every board like that, I have to say. Not every board is as beautiful and as clean as that one. I'm going to go smaller. It's not liking that. Oh, it's probably just me. Do with screwing that first. So we're going to go slightly thinner. That's better. That's better. Now I'm happy. It stops me from going too red. So really just adding that little bit more support. I think on itself, it just wouldn't be strong enough. You think people may be leaning on it and all that sort of thing going on. So one last one, and then that's that.
So Maria's saying that the tulip is still expensive, but as is all wood now.
Yeah,
Everything's going up, isn't it?
All timber's got a cost now. That is everything nice, substantial. Now, where's the best place to see that? If I put him back up right there. Get the screws out of the way. There we are. Let's get it on the floor. I might change the camera angle in a moment, but that's all ready for a pint of milk, Ben. See myself there. All right, let me just change the camera. I'm just going to give you a good shot of the whole thing. You'll have to guide me, Ben. I can't see where I am. There we are. Now I'm going to just crouch on down. Oh, ignore the legs, everybody. I do apologize. I hope you've enjoyed that one. Don't forget, the next part of this one is actually Thursday, and it's how we made that the top and the bottom. So have we got any more questions, Ben, before we wrap up today?
No, just some nice compliments here. We're talking about prices of wood and stuff, but we love that. That looks really cool, Cole. I can't believe you just not winged it, but
No, I did. I winged it.
You just got that, you know, ready to go and turn. It's amazing.
The nice thing, I mean, to reuse that old fence post and the oak one complete, like I say, a recycled piece. That's quite a nice thing, and quite personal as well. If you've had that, you know, as such a focal point of the house for so long, and then being able to reuse it is a great talking point also. But especially nowadays, we're talking cost of wood and things like that. Well, there's a great way around it, as it were. So yes, have a look on Thursday at the rest of the table. I hope you enjoyed it. I always say this, you know, the only reason we do this is for you guys to give you some ideas, that sort of thing. It does get tough thinking of new ideas, and so now it's become almost what we want to make. So this is why we're doing things like this. Thank you ever so much. Don't forget, if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share us around, talk about us, all that sort of thing. But until next time, see you again. Bye-bye.